Cinema was a term invented by the Lumiere brothers in the 1890s. The term covers a film, a movie theatre, films as a group, the film industry, and the art of making films. I'll be focusing on the physical cinemas and the history behind these movie theatres. More specifically, I'll be exploring the city of Glasgow, aiming to uncover its rich past and understand why it deserves the title of Cinema City. Over the past few weeks, I've researched a number of cinemas that Glasgow has to offer, and managed to narrow my research down to just 4 of my favourites. Green's Playhouse opened in 1927 and was built by architect John Fairweather. The cinema seated 4,368 people, making it the largest cinema in Europe at the time. Even the Cineworld in its place only holds 4,300, and it has 18 screens over 9 levels. The Green brothers, Bert and Fred, opened the Super Cinema in September 1927 and showed the film Play Safe, starring Monty Banks. It dominated Glasgow's social scene for many years, and according to the Glasgow Apollo website, after the outbreak of war, everyone used torches to get to it through the blackout. However, this popularity was short-lived, as the 60s and 70s proved too much for the Playhouse, as the emergence of corporate cinemas became a difficult opposition for the brothers. The cinema closed in 1973 and reopened as the Apollo. It then became the leading concert venue in Glasgow in the 70s and 80s. The Apollo then closed for good in 1985. The Cineworld now stands 203 foot in its place and holds the title of the tallest cinema in the world. The next cinema is the ABC Regal. The Regal opened in November of 1929 as ABC's flagship cinema in Glasgow. The cinema was designed by C.J. McNair. The cinema had 2,359 seats and was a conversion of a much older building with a very remarkable and complex history. The building was originally built in 1875 as the diorama and included canvases of historic events. It then became the panorama in 1878, where images were animated through scrolling canvases. The building was then owned by Alistair Hubner, who established Glasgow's very first ice skating palace, run by Glasgow's Real Ice Skating Palace Company, established in 1896. On the 9th of October 1895, the Glasgow Herald published a piece talking about the proposal to convert the panorama into the, quote, Real Ice Skating Palace. Such has proven so attractive to the general public and so profitable to the shareholders in London, Paris, Brussels and Munich. In 1888, meanwhile, it was fitted with electricity, making it one of the first buildings in the city to have this feature. The building was then converted into the Hippodrome, which featured none other than a large circus ring, complete with a water tank underneath it. It was home to Hengler's Circus, and films were still being shown regularly in the circus's off-season. Then, in 1927, it was massively rebuilt and transformed into the Waldorf Dance Hall, which featured a car park on the ground floor, with the dance hall above. Cars entered from the left of the building and exited on the right. In 1929, it finally became an official cinema. The building was renamed ABC 1 in October 1967, when the cinema gained a second screen, called ABC 2, and was the first new cinema to open in Scotland since the war. The original ABC 1 was then subdivided into 4 screens in 1979, and was newly titled ABC Film Centre. This cinema has gained quite a lot of names over the years. In this picture you see the exterior of the cinema when it was called Cannon, whereas here you'll see it when it was called MGM Cinema. And this is when it went back to ABC. Here we have some interior pictures of when it went back to the title ABC. However, all screens finally closed their doors on October 14th, 1999. It now exists as a music venue and pubs. The next cinema I'll be discussing is Glasgow Film Theatre. Glasgow Film Theatre opened May of 1939 under the name Cosmo Cinema, and was the first purpose-built art house cinema opened anywhere outside of London. The cinema had 850 seats and was the architect's final design before his death in 1940. It is said that he visited Hilversum to see the work of Duduk for inspiration, and if you look at some of his work, you can see where the tower influence came from. The building sits on Rose Street and was advertised under the slogan "Entertainment for the Discriminating." In May 1974, it was renamed the Glasgow Film Theatre. It then became independent of the Scottish Film Council in 1986 and B-listed by Historic Scotland in 1988, 2 years later. Despite competition from nearby Cineworld, Glasgow Film Theatre is still thriving and continues to show more independent and foreign cinema every year. In February 2016, the annually held film festival took place, and it received a record admissions of 42,000. And finally, we have the Hillhead Picture Salon. The Hillhead Picture Salon was designed by Brand and Lithgow in 1913 and seated 630 in the stalls and 133 in the balcony. These pictures are extracts from the 1912 plans, which were of course modified and changed during the building period. There is even a drawing of a posh lady in the doorway, which shows what kind of audience the picture salon wished to attract. The salon was built as part of the first wave of picture houses constructed in Britain after this Act was passed in 1910. The Act was introduced in response to concerns regarding the safety of the buildings in which the films were shown, due to the flammability of the film. Meanwhile, my favourite fact regarding the picture salon is the fact that until the 1960s, the salon was paying next door's Western Baths £200 a year to provide steam for its heating, and had to actually complain several times due to insufficient supply. New owners Fife and Fife closed it for renovations, renamed it the Salon, and reopened it in April of 1970 by showing the film The Sound of Music. The pictures you see now show the interior after it was redecorated by the Caledonian Associated Cinemas when they owned it in 1988. The Caledonian Associated Cinemas also owned the nearby Grosvenor Cinema. However, the salon was closed very suddenly on October 12, 1992, as staff turned up to work to find themselves locked out. It then remained derelict until late 1999, when it was converted into Little John's restaurant. It was then reopened as Gong Bar in 2001 and reopened as a salon again in 2007. It was then upgraded to Category A for its unique architectural importance. Now in 2016, it is called the Hillhead Book Club.